Happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday, everybody. Listen, it is fall already, but thank goodness the sun is still shining in Chicago. I'm Sadia Davis, the director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, and I am so grateful to the Coleman Foundation for providing the funding for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship to exist. For those of you who don't know, 2112, which is the largest creative co-working space and creative business incubator in the world, is here in Chicago. And Center for Creative Entrepreneurship is the nonprofit educational arm of 2112. So it is our desire to provide resources and to encourage entrepreneurs in the creative sector to really become successful. And so when you have an opportunity and you're curious about who we are and what we do, take a moment and log on to CCEglobal.org. So before we get started with our very special visual artist and designer, oh my God, a musician, we're so happy to have a really phenomenal innovator in the creative arts with us today. But before we get started, I just want to check in with you guys with some really exciting updates with what's going on in the film industry here in Chicago. So for those of you who are in film and for those of you who don't know, Chicago has one of the largest film studios in the world, CineSpace, which is on the west side. And thanks to the Illinois Film Office, they continually every month give what's called the hot sheet. That hot sheet lists all of the productions that were either created in Chicago or premiering. So I used to go here. Gravitas Ventures premiered on 8/7/20, Tom of Your Life, Gravitas, 9/1, 1st of September premiered. Range Runners, Dark Star Pictures, premiered on September 8th. Finding Ying Ying, Cartium Films. Dreaming Grand Avenue, whoop, whoop, was there just this Wednesday, a new city film project in partnership with Music Box Theater. The world premiere was at Chi-Town Theaters, which was a drive-in, you guys. It was so cool. There were some of the actors that came out from LA. We had a real red carpet outside with social distancing. It was the coolest thing ever. I haven't been to a drive-in movie theater since I was a kid, but it was definitely one of the ways that we're finding to sort of adapt, right, to this pandemic environment. So The Last Shift, Sony Pictures, will premiere on 9/25 in theaters. Once Upon a River, hello, Halila Rose. Yes, so her film through Film Movement comes out in October on the 2nd. Hunter's Creed, Syndium, premieres October 6th. City So Real, National Geographic, that time is to be determined. There's a lot of films and projects that are happening that are produced here and that are slowly coming back to CineSpace. Everyone is being very careful in how they socially distance so that all productions can remain safe. Now, for those of you who love Fargo, I'm so excited that our friend J. Nicole Brooks will be premiering along with the lead, Chris Rock, and some amazing Chicago talent. That premieres on Fox this Sunday at 9 p.m. CST and on Hulu the next day. Hello, I almost said hello, Hulu. So every day that you want to catch up with Fargo, just know that it'll premiere the following day on Hulu. So all that being said, we are here to be a resource for the creative industries, and not just film, but music, all sorts, culinary, visual arts, design, and media. And today our guest, Shala, I have said, goes by one name, but that name speaks more than all of the things that he does. He's an incredible artist, but he's also an innovator. So Shala is a Nigerian-American contemporary artist. He's a producer and a pioneer, and he uses the medium of solar art as a discipline, seamlessly merging art and solar technology. In 2019, he received the Year Museum of Science and Industry. He was an innovator in 2018 as Artist of the Year, African American Arts Alliance, and collaborated and received commissions with Nike, Xfinity, Nissan, ComEd, Leo Burnett, and more. One of the reasons why it's important for you to understand as artists, different artists have different ways in which they showcase their work, different ways in which they intersect with brands or with galleries, there's a tremendous amount of how visual artists, and in this case, a musician, a designer, an innovator. Let's meet Shala.
So, for the popular term art and science, I think that the same curiosity that creates allows us to discover things through science and technology. So really as an artist, I'm just curious and I'm discovering things and I'm reinterpreting the things I discover with my own expression. I think that's what scientists do also. They discover things and then they apply it to whatever direction they feel will serve humanity.
Welcome, sir.
Hey,
How you feeling?
I like that video. I look smart. Cool.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
my museum mode.
What?
That was my museum of science and industry mode.
Yeah. Well, what mode are you in today? Talk to us a little bit about who you are. I mean, Shala, you've talked with a TED Talk. You've done a lot. Tell us a little bit about you, your origin, and not your origin, but like your origin story. Like, what motivates you?
What motivates me? Culture motivates me. Subcultures, innovation, progress. I'm moved by that. I'm moved by like finding solutions or finding new things and wanting to express those new things to as many people as possible, especially when they solve like problems. I think, that's pretty much what motivates me, innovation and culture.
Innovation and culture. I mean, that's like everything right now. We're in the midst of a time that is uncertain. And so many people have had to shift and pivot. How would you say what you do or who you are has been impacted by this time right now? And that could be anything from the pandemic to social justice. I mean, you're creative. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Man, 2020. Well, we all got 2020 stories, don't we? Well, on a I guess career work level, a lot of my projects got canceled or postponed. So that was, not fun. I had some really cool projects coming this year that now have to wait till 2021, and we're still not even sure they're going to happen. But why it's been good is because it's forced me to pause. Like, I think we're going to call this era the Great Pause.
The Great Pause?
The Great Pause, yeah. I think that's going to be a thing. I'm not sure. Google it. Maybe it is already a thing. But I think it's forced a lot of us to, like, stop and really think about what do we want to do and why are we doing what we do. And just being Black, and it's funny because this is the year that I chose to get more in my field. So I really went hard into therapy this year. I really wanted to get past, I'm a very pragmatic person. So I really wanted to start getting more in touch with my emotions and what's had me not really be in touch with my emotions all these years. And this is a hell of a year to get in touch with my emotions because every time I see one of us dying or I hear the dude in the office talk, I cycle through a bunch of emotions that I didn't really even know I had or I felt, but because now I'm opening up more, it's been a time. So I've been going through a lot of different spaces, but also it's been fueling my creativity at a level that I never thought I could reach. So it's been up, down, and around, even sideways,
Yeah, man. I'm looking at your background. It's like compassion, trust, think, it's free, magic, listen, I mean, I don't know if you made that for today, but I'm feeling every minute and every moment of what you're talking about. And I think one of the things that inspired me, shortly after meeting you, you introduced me to this one.
7,
right?
Yeah.
7 is deep. Talk to me a little bit about 7. Who is 7? I mean, I know 7's out there, but I'm just saying, you don't know.
Yeah. So 7 Spoon is a character that I created to represent what I thought wasn't being represented in the media with women. Now, you got to get, this was like over 10 years ago. Women have come so much farther now. Women are, like, you get to see every type of woman. Women of color still are not represented how I think women should be represented, but there's more representation now. of all the different types of women there are. And I grew up with women being powerful, stylish, having an attitude, being smart, all of it, right? But when I would watch TV, they're always one thing or another. If they were smart, then they looked good, but they were dumb, or if they were smart, then they were ugly. It was all kinds of just nonsense, you know. So and now being in therapy, I discovered that it was my way of reconciling all of the things that I had been taught, you know.
Wow.
Dare I say toxic masculinity, right? New buzzword.
Speaking of, I mean, I'm just saying. Go ahead.
Especially a lot of the things that I've been taught were that define man is and what a woman is, you know, and not just by my Nigerian culture, but hip hop, you know.
Yeah.
So this is my therapy and working through it by speaking through a teenage, you know, young woman. And what I got a lot of fans from it that I never would have imagined, because a lot of people were surprised that her voice was a man, especially because Shala, right? So you think, oh, it's a woman, right? And when people would look me up and discover it's a man, I get emails, I get DMs, I get all kinds of stuff to this day of people sharing how much we think alike and how much I think like a woman. And I don't think it's that. I think we're human, and we've put these barriers or we've put these limitations on what a man can be or what a woman can be. But I think that's breaking down. So that's what Seven was. Seven was.
Absolutely. You know, I want to show some of her personalities because, you know, we talk about masculinity and branding, right? Like,
yeah.
She's holding up.
This was me. This was my nod to that Pepsi commercial that what's the Kardashian, what's her name did, right? Pepsi stopping racial injustice and riots and all that. So this was a nod to that. I just like to, you know, I think you get it, and if you don't get it, then I like putting things out there that make people think, you know. But so that's what this was.
What's deep is that you could put her in today, and you said you created them 10 years ago. And I think that there's something to be said about how artists have forethought. Now, talk to me a little bit about I Love Myself.
So I grew up with women that had a lot of confidence, right?
Yeah.
But then you see this trope of the insecure woman who's only living her life to have babies with a man and have a relationship, right? So this was just like fall in love with yourself first, you know. And we like making babies, you know. People don't like people, but they like making people. So you know, I always have my little commentary, my little what's that? I could be a comedian here and there. So that's right. Yeah. So this is just so Seven, in a lot of ways, like some people call her a bitch, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't think she's a bitch. I just think she says things that we think that we never say. You know what I mean? And I think that's why a lot of people love her. You know what I mean? So this is just one of those things.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I mean, when women express themselves and really shine a light on their power, it's unfortunate that it's then translated into being that. But this,
exactly.
I mean, she's feminine. She's got her curves. She's beautiful. But it's also Valentino. Talk about this one.
It's just, you know, collaboration, putting her in Valentino. You know, I thought it was cool because magazines started to see, and you know, we would pitch them, but they started to see that she had a fashion sense, so they thought it'd be a cool idea to do a collaboration. So that's what that was. It was for the sneakers, those sneakers that just came out. Again, more of her commentary. You know, a lot of times it's just meant to point out things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. You know, and just to represent women in a way that wasn't represented at the time. You know.
Absolutely. You know, I encourage individuals to check out not only the book, but she has her own sort of urban life that has expanded beyond, like I had the button. I know she shows up in some of your works. She is a character in a life of her own. And I think that that's really beautiful, that the works that you create live beyond what you do. And it's different because there are some artists who are on walls in museums. Like last night I was at the Art Institute and had an opportunity, you know, to see a Basquiat or several other amazing artists who for the most part, their works live on a canvas. A lot of your work has started to live in our culture. And so your process.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just taking that in because that's the dream, you know. I've always wanted my work to live beyond the canvas, you know. I started as a musician. I started as a rapper, right? Well,
Right.
I actually started as a visual artist, but you know, as I got older, hip hop, you know, inspired me. So I always was fascinated by how music would transcend everything,
Yeah.
right? Music was an experience. Music, it represents us. It tells people how we feel. Music just does so much. And I never thought that you could achieve that with visual art, right? So I've always been inspired to take visual art off the canvas and have it engage people in a way that music does, you know? So at this point, I think I'm more of an experiential artist or multimedia. I don't know, all these like boxes that artists have to put themselves and creators have to put themselves in seems so confining, you know? I just create. I just create, and I want my work to live in culture. So that was a hell of a compliment. I appreciate that.
It was true. I mean, as we continue this conversation, we're going to see how you keep breaking past the so-called confines, right, of being an artist. And I think that that's one of the things that, as the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, it's so important that when people think, oh, well, what does that mean? We're not teaching you the how-tos. We're teaching you at the point at which you decide to create a company and a business around art. That's where we engage, right? Because to be an artist is one thing, to show your self-expression, to create narratives that people can engage with. But the point at which you decide to take it to that next level, and with, like in your case, you're intersecting with design, you're intersecting with brands, so there's marketing, and that's deep because it becomes a cultural conversation, right? So for example, let's see where to go next. I think, like, when I was talking about your process, the process of you being an artist is one thing, and how that's now translating into other things. Talk to our audience a little bit about what is that? I know you said that music inspired you to think beyond the canvas, but as a person in business, how would you describe that point at which you realized there was a business aspect? Because from there, we're going to talk about this other venture that you're working on.
Man, when did it enter? I think I've always been, I want to say, not forced. I've always been put in a position to consider monetizing my work because I grew up with hardworking Nigerian parents who are worried about having one of their kids be a broke artist, right? So I think it started early on when I felt like I would be pushed toward architecture or design, which I went to school for, in order to monetize my work. I got early on that there was no way I'd be able to create art if I couldn't afford to create art. So from that point, I got really interested in marketing and how to sell my art. And I just got that, you know, brands always needed something to engage with the culture and engage with their audience, so consumer base. And I felt like I could take on that opportunity, get the funding for my work, but somehow subvert it to speak the messages that I want to speak. And I've been doing it ever since. Don't tell them. And so that's pretty much how it started. It started with somehow getting a message from my parents that I couldn't be an artist if I wasn't making money off of it, and then figuring out how to make money off of it so I could just make art for the rest of my life. And I'm proud to say I've been a working artist for more than 10 years, not working for anybody, but just creating my craft and essentially creating my life, you know? I think that's the main thing. I got early on that if you want to be a successful or just a working artist, you're going to have to create your life too. You're going to have to design your life. No, there's no blueprint. There's no way to do it. And that's just the way I chose to do it. Like, oh, y'all got some money? I got some art and culture for you. Give me this money and I'll make some cool shit for you, you know? And can we cuss?
Yes. I mean, so, you know, what I should say is not broadcast. So absolutely. You know, I want people to be free, you know, and to express themselves. I will say this, you know, you mentioned a couple of things that are really important. And I think the point at which you realize how to survive, right? Some people struggle through their process, and it sounds like it wasn't an option because your parents were.
Nah. My parents struggled. My parents struggled to bring us here, and they didn't do that, so I would continue struggling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Akintunde means, which is my last name, means the king has come again, right? So the king has not come again to struggle. The king has come again to expand the kingdom. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
Yep. And my full name is Shala, and Shala means that I bring wealth and I spread wealth. So my job and my calling by my name was to come to America, spread the wealth, and empower other people. And it's really funny because names do give you who you are. Because I didn't know that, but just in our country, we believe that names are a prayer. Because every time somebody says it, they're manifesting something, right? So every time somebody says Shala, or they say Shala, or they say my last name, they're manifesting who I am. And it's important because that is what's made me who I am in a lot of ways. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think names are important. My name means truth. And
Yeah.
it when you know the truth of your name, it really does kind of inspire you to live in some accordance with it. I think it's beautiful that the meaning of your name really translates into how your work provides, in a sense, I would say wealth in a different kind of way for a community, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the pyramid that you put up in the Bronzeville neighborhood, because that work doesn't just exist, it actually powers the art gallery next door. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So a friend of mine gave me the name social impact artist, right? And I took it reluctantly, but it does fit what I do because I've always wanted my work to transcend the canvas, like I said. So after wanting to hit culture, I wanted to impact culture, and I wanted to impact culture in a meaningful way. So the solar pyramid is basically it's skinned with solar panels and icons all over it because in a lot of ways I'm an iconographer. And I worked with 60 high school students to create their own icons all over it. And the solar panels, which is skin with, still work. And what that does is it generates electricity during the day, then it illuminates at night and sends excess electricity to the gallery next door. And that's what I want my work to be about. I want my work to impact culture in a way that's not only practical and empowering, but also culturally relevant. And that's why the pyramid, and we could talk all day about pyramids and what pyramids do.
Yeah,
I'm really into the sacred aspect and spiritual aspect of my work, and the things that I've learned over the years. I'm really into translating that in a way where people not only become curious about it, but feel it. When you see a pyramid in your neighborhood, you're gonna feel a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna take a look at your video.
Oh, what video?
The one that talks about the pyramid.
When creativity is fostered, humanity thrives. Technology and art need each other because it gives you so many tools, it'd be a shame not to use it. What was slowing solar panels down was that they were not attractive. So I worked with students on this innovative art project to create the Bronzeville Solar Pyramid, which actually helps power the gallery in my neighborhood. To be a social impact artist means that your work makes a difference. Technology is just another platform. It's a canvas. So a vehicle like the Nissan Kicks just continues that process by making technology accessible to everyone.
The all-new Nissan Kicks. Now, the most exciting tech you own is in your driveway.
It's still surreal to see myself in a commercial like that. It's hilarious. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
For those who don't know, the beauty of that is not only are you able to share your art beyond Chicago, because that ran nationally. It also
went global.
Oh, did that one run global?
Yeah. My cousin saw it, and he lives in Paris. And
nice.
Yeah, he called me like, dude. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, and then you you were at the BET Image Awards because of that, or the Nissan relationship? Talk to us a little bit about how that happened.
So I was at the BET Awards. So I became a national representative for the new Nissan Kicks because it's innovative, and I'm innovative. So I got to go to places like the BET Awards and represent. It was cool. I got to walk the red carpet. I know the red carpet is not red. This one was a gray carpet. I don't know what that is, but I got a chance to walk that, meet a bunch of celebrities, sit in a fifth row. It was great, man. My first time at the BET Awards. Good time. It's cool.
Yeah. The BET Awards, they're funny. Their carpet's not always red, like the pre-COVID, the last.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a blue carpet. And it was like, oh, okay, blue carpet. But here's an example of where your work and your art, what you created, grew past your experience and started to show and take on a life of its own for other people to sort of tap in, or other companies, in this case with Nissan, with the BET Awards, right? Like, there's a conversation, and I know that you're aware of it. I feel like we've maybe been in the room where these conversations have happened around how artists there are different artists that feel different ways about commercializing their work. You want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, I know you said, look, it was an opportunity to make money, but for artists who are out there who struggle with that, talk a little bit about that, because I think it's important to diversify your work. I don't think it takes away from the value of your work.
So something this EDM artist named Moby said that I read in a magazine really hit me in high school.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know if he's from Iowa or Kentucky, but he's from a small town.
Moby?
And Moby. He's from a small town. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where he's from, but he said that if people like Daft Punk and the Chemical Brothers didn't make commercial songs, he only had top 40 radio. So if they didn't make top 40 accessible songs, he would have never heard electronic dance music. And he would never have become the Moby that we know about, or those of us who are a certain age know about, right? So he said it's our duty as artists, whether we call ourselves underground or not, to make stuff for the masses, because we never know what kid or what person we're going to touch or reach that would not normally know to Google us or be able to contact us. Be able to come in contact with our art or our platform if it didn't touch them in some way. And a lot of times that's making commercial work. I work with brands. Brands have the money. I work with the brands, though, that align with with what I'm on, and align with the way I see the world and what I intend to do. Now, that can be controversial a lot of times because a lot of brands are not innocent, of course, but I'm not either, and we're all flawed. But if the project we're doing is going to move the world forward in some way, or it's going to serve my people or serve people, we can align on that, right? I'm a firm believer in working with people to create mutual gains that impact what we both believe in. Yeah. And I don't think brands are any exception. I deal with that. I'm a underground, subversive, loving, subculture, saluting artist. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, like if you ask my brother, I use the word corny like once a day, right? But I also understand the bigger picture. And I also understand that I'm here not just to serve my ego. I'm here to serve humanity in some way. And that takes letting go of preconceived notions of what you think is cool and what's not cool. You know what I mean? So yeah. So that's why. Yeah.
No, that's why. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's why I do things like the Nissan commercial and not just work with a Nike. And I'll work with Lululemon right now, right? I got some things, from my buddies about working with Lululemon, but Lululemon aligns with what I'm on. Like Lululemon is a leadership company first that just happens to make clothes. So if you look at what they're doing and how they move, that's perfectly aligned with what I'm on with people. So I'd rather promote their clothes than promote I don't know what Fabletics is on, but another company that doesn't align with what I'm up to. And Lululemon is innovative, and frankly, they're flat. So that's an example of me working with companies that people won't necessarily expect me to work with. Mudwater, a coffee alternative that gives you all the things that you need from herbs that I naturally take. Now it's mixed into a coffee, so it's better than coffee. So I use it as a coffee alternative. I align with them, so I work with them. So I tend to work with companies that align with what I'm doing, regardless of how society or people see them.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned in that, I think the most key part is really integrity. It's like you understanding who you are and what speaks to you. And the fact that you're not compromising your integrity. I think, frankly, I don't endorse anybody, but I will say that with Lululemon, they go beyond just selling the clothes of yoga.
Yep.
They actually actively get people engaged in the movement of the body, which makes people healthier. So I totally get it. There's some works that I want to share with individuals that speak to the social justice of also what you put forth in your work. We're going to share some of these images. Is that something that you did alone, or was it in tandem with other artists?
Yeah, so worked with a group of other artists. I had the honor of doing the eye and the Black Lives on the lives. We got together. They gave us a street, and we got together and knocked it out. I'm proud of this one. I think this was pretty good. I've done one since then. That was the one I did in Philadelphia. So those were a collection of Martin Luther King sculpture busts. This one is at the Betsy Ross House, which is a destination spot in Philadelphia. Go check it out. I've done a lot of street work, some for free, some in cooperation with brands. But I think it's important, again, to be part of the culture. And I'm here to serve the culture. This speaks again to how I see women. And it's just a true statement. Like, to witness the rise of a nation is to bear witness to the growing influence of its women. I mean, look at America. Look what's happening in America right now. You know what I mean? We're facing a reckoning, and that's not just because of Black Lives Mattering. That's because a lot of women are in powerful positions, and they now have the voice to say that you're not taking care of all your citizens. And I think we're in a state of transformation anyway, and I'm looking forward to the opportunities. And it's just like the awkward hair phase, right? We're going through our awkward hair phase. That's how I look at it.
Awkward hair phase?
Yeah, you know more than I do, you know what I mean?
It is weird. I got my hair cut.
When I did too. Save it down.
It doesn't always right.
Got that done, yeah.
It's true. I mean, we go through these phases in life, and just like we go through phases, our universe goes through phases. Our continent right now is going through a phase. And I think one of the beauties of, the solar powered work that you're doing is literally impacting, potentially empowering our world in a different way. I remember we were at was it like a solar power conference or something? And we got into a conversation.
We get into a million conversations in a million places.
Oh, I know, but I was selling solar panels at the time.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was man, you've had a lot of lives, man. You
Hey, as artists, we find our ways to.
Your book is going to be phenomenal. Wow.
Huh?
Your book is going to be phenomenal. You've had a lot of lives. I forgot about that. That's amazing. Yep.
Yeah, I'm working on that. But I mean, the ways in which, as artists, we find ways to sustain ourselves. And I really appreciate what you were talking about in terms of the integrity, right? And doing things that are aligned with what you do. Because as a social entrepreneur myself, I'm fortunate to sit in the seat and be a director with the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, because now the kind of advice that we've shared back and forth, I get to do that for a lot of people. So it's very fulfilling, Shala.
I know it is. And the culmination of your history and all the things everything you get to pour into people. And it's like, I mean, they're really lucky. The world is really lucky to have you. I don't know if I told you that before, but like just because you're so unafraid to explore yourself and different opportunities and people, and at the core is a love for humanity, and you're creative. So it's just, Yeah, thanks for having me. I always enjoy having conversations with you because
Well, I really enjoy having this conversation with you, and thank you for that honor, because it is beautiful to, one, know your journey and really be able to, once you know it, kind of jump on that path and just go for it, right?
yeah.
Speaking of which, you know, I think for whether it's visual artists out there, designers, because that is something that in a sense you've done, you're working on other projects that it's up to you to discuss whether or not you want to discuss, but where you are at the forefront of putting things, in a sense, creating, right? Like each one of these projects is kind of like a birth.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that that's the beauty of artists, is that they have the ability to create. Talk to us a little bit about, you've got trust behind you, but that point at which, as an artist, you make a decision to move forward on a project, right? Like at any given time, how many projects do you have on deck? And then, or how do you make the determination to choose one?
Wow. So you can relate to this as as being in film, being a producer, just understanding that like it's constant pitching. You have a million ideas and you almost have to work on all of them concurrently because you don't know which one is going to cross when the time comes. And you really don't even have enough life to work on each project one at a time. I'm not going to live that long with the amount of ideas I have. So most of the time, I'm working on 5 projects at a time, which are all in different stages. Some are in concepting staging, some are in funding stage, some are in implementation stage. There's also a politicking stage, which is the longest stage, where you're educating people, you're shaking babies, you're not literally shaking babies, you're shaking hands, kissing babies. I got to be careful these days. You don't want to get cancer. You know what I'm about. And it's interesting because that's the stage that takes most of the time. So while you're going through creating the relationships you need to get that green light, you're coming up with other ideas and moving other things forward that has gotten the green light. And what I'm learning now is that if you do it right, when you're creating those relationships, you can get 2 or 3 of your babies through if it's the right relationship. So that's what I'm learning how to do now. I'm learning how to get the green light for a multiple projects as opposed to just one at a time. So that was a long answer to your short question. I'm always working on several different things. Can I say what I'm working on right now? Man, I got so many NDAs floating. But I want to say, because I want people to get what's possible out here. You know? Okay, I'm gonna tell you what. Okay, so
hold that thought for a second, because I'm going to draw a connection to something you said. And because of what I do, I'm going to caution you on, no, you don't share the idea if you've not signed an NDA, or if you have signed an NDA. Let me refer. Roll the tape back. Signed an NDA. That means you cannot. So hold that. I want to make a connection point here. You just said 2 things that were really important, that you have projects operating concurrently, right? And it depends on the relationships of those different projects before you make a decision to push one forward. I asked a very similar question to Steve McQueen, okay? The director who directed Widows and I don't want to,
12 Years a Slave.
12 Years a Slave, okay? I'm talking about, that was Steve McQueen's answer, that you might be thinking you're working on this one, but you got to keep all pieces in play because it's the other one that a producer or the funding for another one, right? So you kind of have to have all pieces on the ready. That's number 1. Number 2 is the relationships, right? But the importance of making sure that you, I always say, protect your relationships. Relationships cannot be monetized. They are very valuable. And it's a process of maintaining your integrity, because the brands will come back to you, right? Maintaining those relationships with producers, because people work with who they like. But
people work with who they like.
People work
with. Say it again for the people in the back. People work with who they like.
That's right. And you know who told me that, and I live by it? Francis Ford Coppola himself.
Of course, plug. I see. I see.
Steve McQueen was a visual artist before he started filmmaking. And one of the things that he said is he became really particular about how much he put in a frame because he was like, look, I didn't have a lot of money to pay for a canvas. So I had to put as much as I could in that one frame to maximize my ability as a visual artist. So how he produces within the frame of films is also condensing, piling these layered images. It's deep because it took him going through one creative sector, right, to get to the information that provided the insight into that other creative sector. So going from visual arts to film, which is happening a lot right now with our visual artists, how that then informed his work. I'm going to give you one more that's really beautiful, and that is Michelene Thomas, okay, and how she layers her collage work deep. When she did the film for our dearly departed Dr. Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am, she's bad. She layered in the film, right? So I'm sharing this because for those viewers who have various aspects within the various sectors of art, at any point they intersect. And you have demonstrated in your work, Shala, the points at which they intersect, but you jumped off the canvas and now you're, powering neighborhoods.
It's all the same. It's like it all creativity. That's why I don't necessarily believe in boxes. We have to, tell people we're a social impact artist or I'm a solo artist just so they know how to relate to you. But when you're creative, man, it's cross medium. It's a cross discipline, I think. And we just pick the one we like, or we pick the one that works for us, and we stick to that one. But some of us are out here obeying the cravings of the mind, and our mind wants us to visit multiple things because it's all an experience to me. You know what I mean? Whenever I'm painting, I can hear sounds. I think Pharrell said that, right? When he makes beats, he sees colors, right? When I used to make music, I saw colors. It merges. The video is done when I'm done with the song. The video is already there. I had a soundtrack for the pyramid. There's a sound that I hear when I look at the pyramid. And it was the same sound that I heard when I was sketching it, same sound I heard when it was being built. So we're something different as creatives, But I really believe that everybody's creative. I just think that artists,
we live
it. Huh?
We
live it. But everybody's creative in some ways. There's some people give up on it, or some people express it through other means. But we choose to live it in all its crazy demands and everything that comes with it. It can be rough because I think a lot of times we're misunderstood. We spend our whole life trying to figure out ourselves, even as we're executing these crazy ideas and don't know where they come from. A lot of times, and are afraid that we're going to be found out and we're frauds, right? Because we don't know. I didn't come up with a pyramid. I didn't say, okay, brain, come up with pyramid solar. It just drops into our heads. And then we're like, oh man, I hope this doesn't drop into nobody else's head. You know what I mean? Okay, how long do I have before somebody else does this? You know what I mean? Like my arch nemesis is Kanye, right? Every time Kanye sends a tweet, I'm like, scared because he's going to say something I want to do and he has the resources to do it. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, he did another thing. Dang, I crossed that out. Kanye already did it. I think all of us go through that, So it's something. Go ahead.
Speaking to the collective consciousness, right? And so for those of us who understand, hey, listen, the ideas are out there floating around. You pull one down, there's only so much time before another.
You only got so much time. So somebody's going to pull it. Yep.
That's right. And the other thing, too, is I always caution individuals who get a little nervous about it is that, you know what, if it's your idea and it's meant for you, you're going to execute it in such a phenomenal way that you will stand out, right? But let me ask you this. That idea that you wanted to share, have you signed an NDA? Can you share it?
Yeah, I was thinking about all the ones that I have an NDA pending right now. So what's one that I could share that doesn't have an NDA? I can share... See, now I spook myself because I'm in that. If I say an idea and somebody does it first, who's watching this show? You know what I mean? Like one of the things that I've been working on is a solar greenhouse. So what happens is that I love innovation. The thing with innovation, though, is it sparks my curiosity and it sparks my creativity. And here, I'll just give up some game for all the creatives out there. There is a whole world out here who needs us because they don't know how to translate their inventions for wide use. So a lot of times what I do is I discover something that a lot of people don't know about, but that could change the world or make life easier for a lot of people. And I just find a creative way to package and reuse that thing, right? So solar is an example. Solar was not being adopted the way it could be because it's ugly. And that's what sparked this whole solar art revolution for me. And that's what's taken me to the heights that I'm going now because I've just evolved that throughout the years. But that's originally what sparked that. So I saw another opportunity in solar glass, right? So solar glass now exists, and a lot of people don't know that. So it's basically your window can generate electricity, right? But people are not buying that. Now you would think, why does everybody buy solar glass, right? So it's our job to make it cool, right? As creatives. So I've been working on a solar greenhouse, right? Because not only will a solar greenhouse allow the sun to go through and obviously feed the plants inside, but it'll be able to generate electricity. And it's cool, it's sexy, and there's so much you can do around urban farming and food deserts. So it checks off all the boxes. And I'm working with different partners to do that. So that's one of my projects that I'm just like in love with because when that launches, it's going to start a whole thing, right?
Well,
Because people are going to rethink greenhouses. Like, why are we doing greenhouses out of regular glass? So then they start adopting solar glass. Now we can start seeing solar glass in buildings.
yes.
So it's just a slight tweak to the purpose of your creativity. And that's what I do. So I can share that. Everything else is kind of wrapped under an NDA. I'm sorry. But you guys will see it in 2022.
Listen, we want you to be as successful as you can be because your name says bringing wealth and spreading wealth.
Same thing. Yep. Bringing wealth and sharing wealth. Yep. That is my job.
You know, listen, I'm looking at you behind you and it says love is knowing yourself. And behind you is joy.
Man, you see it all. This is how I ideate. This is like my sketch wall. I write ideas, I write things down, and then when people come, they write their stuff. So this is like my former assistant where over here wrote compassion. You know, I think my daughter got some words up here somewhere. My brother come and tag the place up, you know. So it's my favorite wall. It's where I look at it to unblock my mind a lot of times. I sketch around it, you know. So that's what you see here, you know. And a lot of my work is that. A lot of my work starts with me writing, showing all my sketches in the background, and then painting over that. Because I think it shows the process. It takes it beyond the canvas, I think, because you see that there's a living, breathing culture and expression going on. And that canvas just so happens to capture the moment.
Yeah. I gotta say this, Shala, because this is deep, and I wasn't planning on sharing this, but it's a personal moment where it was transformative for me in my life. You just said something that sparked it, and that is something about living in the moment. Whatever you just said just sparked this memory. You were shooting a chocolate commercial, and you were shooting stills, and you were shooting hands. That's right, because I've been a hand model too.
I was.
Right.
I was, yeah.
I had this beautiful male model, and you know, Shala is like, it's hot, right? The guy's like, yeah, it's hot. And the guy's like, I'm going to take my shirt off. I'm like, oh, okay. You would never do this during COVID. But the reality is within commercials, let me just peep a little game for actors who are going into commercials, you know, and when you see a K's Kiss commercial, you know, where they kiss, you know, actors in their audition, you know, they kind of have to kiss. We have to see the chemistry. So the point is that within the world of film, within the world of the still photo, we still have to be able to show the intangibles, the nuances, emotion. Now, the photo was of two hands, right? It was my hands and his hands. Well, we're posted up like this. The hands are like in frame or whatever. My hands probably were like this because I'm like, I got this like really good looking guy who doesn't have a shirt on, who's like up against me, but we're trying to show hands. I got curls in my hair because I'm like, that's a hand commercial. So there's no my hair, right? So I wasn't feeling beautiful or really anything. And you saw something through the lens and you said something like, we're not getting the emotion in your hands. Are you guys looking at each other? My eyes were closed, right? And so in that moment, I was forced to face another person. And in that moment, I was forced to connect emotionally. And in the moment that I connected emotionally with my eyes and that other model's eyes, our hands came alive. Right?
Yeah.
And it's deep because we had to take a break. I mean, I took a moment again.
You near the moment.
My face,
that
tears were like, man, I need a moment.
I need a moment. You're welcome.
Shala, that was a transformative moment in my life because in that moment I realized, well, damn, how long have my eyes been closed?
Ooh, I see what you did there. That was nice.
How long have I not really been allowing others in and allowing me to see others really like at an emotional level, right? And so what you spoke to earlier on with regards to the integrity of your work and making sure that you are true and love is knowing yourself. I'm okay with sharing this moment with our creative entrepreneurs because you'd be surprised if you're not connected emotionally to the pen, to the brush, to the voice. Your voice can't even come out right. You can't even fully sing the truth of the emotions of a song if you're not connected emotionally. And so for you as an artist, but also an artistic director in that moment, Shala, you connected the other artist with themselves, and that produced the moment that you needed in that shot. That was deep.
Thank you.
But you know what you also did? You know what that also did? It connected to me. It connected me to everybody in my life in a different way.
And in that moment, you got that much. It's amazing how we affect each other. I never knew that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's really important for artists, and you know, the creative economy right now is.
It is.
Right? It's bursting because not only did COVID sit everybody down and, like you said, canceled all your contracts, artists create in the darkest of times. And some of the best work comes from that. And everybody's been forced to innovate. But prior to that, we were looking at how all of these creative economies and creative sectors in Illinois weren't connecting. And so part of what we're tasked with is making sure that not only are we connecting you guys to resources, but we're also connecting you guys to each other. And so one of the reasons why we share your contact information, and I highly encourage everyone, check Shala out, check out his TED Talk. Because an individual who not only is on the cutting edge constantly of creating and innovating, he's also a person that can be transformative in your life, whether you realize it or not. So it's your opportunity to engage with him, follow him on Instagram. Shala, what's next? I mean, like, what are you doing for the weekend? How are you getting through?
What am I doing for the weekend? I got daddy-daughter time, so I'm spending the weekend with my daughter. Nice. And we got a lot to do because she has to be in quarantine because she was around somebody with COVID for 14 days. So it's been a minute. And so we're doing it all. And she loves to take on a lot of different things. And we have like amazing conversations now. She's 17. And she's seeing a lot. Her generation is different. They want to do stuff now. and they can because they have the internet. So not that we didn't have it. Did we have it? I don't know. Anyway, they understand the power of it, and so she wants to go over a bunch of plans to change things and make sure people vote. And she's dealing with stuff as a woman of color, and she's half Mexican. So she's seeing things on a level that um, is phenomenal. She sees humanity in a totally different way, and I constantly encourage her to voice what she thinks because it's necessary, and there are not a lot of people thinking the way she does. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. I had the honor of spending time with an amazing young lady that is gonna do some amazing things on this planet, and I happen to be her pops. So that's what I'm doing. Not to make it all sound deep, but that's how I feel about it.
Hey, listen, I mean, it's a beautiful thing that she has you as a father, right? And that you can inspire and encourage her. And I'm sure it's reciprocal. I'm sure there are things that she might say that spark things for you also.
I hope so. Then it sends me into Monday where I want to create even more because that's what inspires me, that type of stuff. You know, those type of conversations like this that have me keep going. Because if I'm talking to myself, I would think that I'm a complete loser that doesn't matter and it's not good enough.
Wait,
so I'm a complete loser. I don't matter, and I don't think I'm good enough. So I try my best not to talk to myself and to talk to people like you and to talk to people like y'all out there and my daughter, because it really is what gives me life. So
yeah, I think a lot of artists, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of artists are hard on themselves. And, you know, it's the point at which, how do you know to pull the pen back? How do you know when to pull the brush back? How do you know when that beat is complete, right? But give yourself some permission, as you or somebody wrote, love is knowing yourself. I feel like you know yourself, you know us. And so it's really been an absolute pleasure to have you engaged in conversation with the CCE Global Industry Talks. I really appreciate you taking time. Time is money. And we really believe in artists being able to, at this time, I think the other thing that became very clear for everyone is making sure that you pay yourself first. And that although you have been so generous with your contribution of time for us today, making sure that we, you know, encourage individuals to save a little. If anything, this COVID has made us all very aware of what happens when work stops. And as entrepreneurs, we always have to be able to make sure that we can sustain ourselves in a way so that we can continue to create and bring more incredible opportunities to those who are out there. So thank you, Shala, so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. I want to be in a garden like that. Listen, if you are in Chicago or you're visiting Chicago, be sure to check out that incredible pyramid. It's a solar pyramid that sits in Bronzeville, and it powers the art gallery next door. Stay tuned and check out Shala's work by following him on Instagram or checking him out on his website. It has been an absolute joy and pleasure to bring this innovator, designer, musician, creative artist, social entrepreneur, all of the things to you today. I'm Sadia Davis, the director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. I'm wishing you a beautiful, wonderful weekend. There's a lot going on out there, but just try to find the joy in your heart, fall in love with yourself all over again, and then share that love with someone else. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.